Well, so taking the manufacturing powers of China, I understand it's a hard work, it's a long-term thinking, it's a super long-term thinking. I think it will be possible like in the next 20 to 50 years, maybe shorter. I hope shorter, but in 20 to 50 years it's a possibility. But once America and big strong economics could help to that to happen and move manufacturing powers to countries like Brazil, Poland, maybe some North and Western Africa countries, and distribute it all over the world. Yeah, maybe there will be a more complicated logistics at some point, but it will take every leverage out of China, and China will become just a supplier of like the rare earth materials, rare earth minerals, and become what Russia was in the 17th century to 19th century. So that's how I see that America can win China without even like go into a direct war with China.
Okay, let me actually see some information on that. As a so the world is so here as of May 14 till May 14 2026, the world is watching a high stakes summit in Beijing, so we already know that. So let's look at the goal is to repair damage of the 2025 tariff wars, which saw trade volumes plummet to historic lows. So you're saying that if we could get more, I'm trying to look information to see if we are basically moving in that direction, because I know, for example, about Vietnam, Philippines, Mexico. These are the great places for us to divert a lot of imports from, so that China doesn't have so much leverage. So here's something that people don't understand is that they think because I am for free, completely for free markets, I don't understand the security strategic advantages to sometimes go off that model, for you not to becoming completely relied on one country for certain strategic things that your country needs. I completely understand that. I just think some people overdo it and they turn into isolationists. But I just think that, but I do believe that diversity is always your friend. And if you're too reliant on one country, it does make sense to come and make some adjustments on a state level to make sure that you're not, that one country doesn't have so much leverage over you, especially the parts of an industry where your security, your military depends on, right? So let me actually, that's the reason why I'm looking at this, to see if we can see any signs where the West is actually moving in that direction for reducing their reliance on China, because I know they are. I just want to see better information on this, right? So let me go away from what's happening in China, the meeting. So here, a major 2026 industrial report shows a massive shift in how Western companies view their footprints. So we have a strategic shift. 73% of large European and US organizations now have active reindustrialization strategies, up significantly from 59 just 2 years ago. So that means that the reshoring acceleration. In the US, 48% of companies are actively moving production back home. This is called reshoring, compared to 30% in 2025. And then we have reshoring and we have friend shoring. Okay, so friend shoring is that in Europe 64% of organizations are prioritizing friend shoring, which means relocating supply chains to politically aligned allies to avoid geopolitical extortion. So actually a lot of people think that violates free market principles, because you have, but it doesn't. These are basically companies realizing that even if manufacturing bases in China or some other hostile countries, if they could provide you the same goods with cheaper prices, the problem is that the fact that these are not democracies makes them more risky, because it means it actually promotes free market principles, because it punishes states that are very involved in their economy, because states like Russia and China that are very involved in their economy, companies in freer countries have to realize that, okay, this is not just about making money, this is political, and this does not fit my models. This means that, like, if I could do on my valuation spreadsheet, I could measure everything based on economic principles and, finance. But all of a sudden, the CCP might come and say, "No, fuck you. We're gonna cut this because I want to punish the United States." Right? So you need to take the geopolitical extortion risk into account, and that usually happens in countries where the state treats its economy like a weapon, and that's usually in less democratic countries that the state is capable of doing that. So more private companies have to take that risk into account, and this is why reshoring and friendshoring is not a violation of free trade, because people think that free trade just means more global trade just because we want more global trade. No, global trade should always be an option for companies to, it should be, that should be, we want to remove the barriers to global trade. But when these private companies notice that it's risky to do business with companies in China or Russia, then they could on themselves realize that, yeah, this is actually not worth the risk, and we need to either bring this back home or take it to countries that are less risky. For example, choose Vietnam over China, right? So then we have the AI catalyst, killing the cheap labor advantage. So this is something that a lot of people need to, like China and other countries that people were offshoring to, with AI and robotics, they're going to lose that advantage. So the primary reason made in China dominated was the cost of manual labor. That advantage is evaporating due to agentic AI and advanced robotics. So we have cost distribution. New AI native manufacturing platforms are reporting up to 97% reduction in manpower and capital costs for specific sectors like media and microelectronics. And then we have local high fidelity. AI allows local creators and manufacturers to produce high quality goods at 3% of legacy costs, making local cheaper than shipped from overseas. And then we have valuation period. And so this is what isolationists. This is actually the isolationist main fear, because isolationists will always want to say like, "Oh my God, China is stealing our job," but now their jobs are coming back on, to your shores. But you're not going to see people actually, those jobs are not going to go, those jobs are now being taken away by AI and robots rather than the Chinese, right? So just because it comes back home, it doesn't mean that those jobs that were taken away are now going to be given to the people who lost their jobs. I think on a net basis we're going to see more employment, not because these jobs are coming back, but because usually industrial revolutions create new kinds of jobs, right? So we have valuation premium. Companies utilizing AI native manufacturing are currently commanding 40 to 50% higher valuations on the stock market. So yeah, we already seen that in the stock market. And we have the death of the just-in-time logistics. Global shipping is no longer stable or cheap. We have logistics inflation due to choke points in the Red Sea and the Strait of Hormuz. Shipping costs on key routes have spiked over 20% this year. So we have regionalization. Companies are moving towards a glocal model. So that's a new word. Model, manufacturing goods as close to the end consumer as possible to avoid $3,000 plus $3,000 plus per container surcharges. So glocal means that it's local and global. So it is outside your country, but it's close to home, just to avoid these choke points and the costs associated with that. And then we also have China's counter move in response to all of this. We have new productive forces. China isn't standing still. They are pivoting away from shoes and toys to dominate the green and high tech sectors. I don't think this is going to work out for China the way people think, because this reminds me of what the Soviet Union was trying to do with, just like, how we could solve everything, tech, science, right? But the problem with the tech and science that came from the Soviet Union was, again, it was from the top down, ordered by the state rather than organic from the top, from the bottom up. And right now a lot of people are impressed by China's, electric vehicles and solar panels, and I don't know, new AI models and robotics. But I think you're going to see them fall behind, just like the Soviet Union. People were used to be impressed by the Soviet Union. I mean, they made it to space before the Americans. The Americans made it first to the moon, but there was the Soviet Union that made it first to space. People thought they were equal. Now that we're looking back, they were never equal. We just had this illusion of them being both superpowers. United States was so far ahead of the Soviet Union even during the Cold War. And I think we have this illusion of some sort of inequality between China and United States as well right now, just because China, with their central command structure, they could produce things fast, but fast doesn't usually mean good. A lot of these are not based on demand supply of the markets. So you're gonna oversupply things, they're gonna undersupply things, they're gonna move things in in the wrong directions, they're going to invest in the wrong things because it's not powered by the market, by the hand of the market. They're going to make a lot of mistakes. It's going to look very good when China exports more electric vehicles, more lithium batteries, more solar panels. In the short term, it's going to look really good, but it will never beat the progress that you could make when you are just basically listening to the market and responding to that, instead of some people at the higher ups deciding that, oh, tech is good, so let's go all tech. AI is good, so let's go all AI. This is not going to produce the same results as United States. So that's my response to what you were just saying. Frozen. Oh, there.
Okay, we have a long response list. Please, everyone, do your best because we still have other questions on the main list. So up first is Jeffrey.
I mean, so as far as like the reason we're onshoring again is because everybody can read the tea leaves and they know conflict is coming. A big that started with in response to the Chinese Communist Party pandemic, Wuhan COVID-19, at least that gave impetus to that even before that. I mean, so Armin touched on a couple of things that are key with regards to the Chinese Communist Party's previous strategy that's centered around leveraging competitive advantage of cheap labor. One of yours truly wrote a couple of, well, more than a couple of reports on how to offset the advantages or the challenges that the Chinese Communist Party poses to U.S. competitiveness in science and technology. For SAIC and the CIA back in 2010, that was very much focused on strategic trade, onshoring, leveraging revolutionary technologies, specifically AI and next gen automation to offset that. That also kind of got up into a policy paper for Rubio's office, and then underwrote Rubio in part Rubio's Made in China 2025 report. Some other things I'm not going to go into because it would take forever. So as far as like some of the challenges, so after like the Chinese Communist Party pandemic, Wuhan COVID-19, Gordon Chang, me, a lot of other guys were pushing for, how we need to de-link from being dependent upon China. Some of the challenges. $37 trillion have been invested in China since the beginning of the opening up of China, which actually wasn't like, it had nothing to do with free markets, had everything to do with the Chinese Communist Party trying to play a long game and spurring foreign direct investment to maximize technical diffusion from the quarter periphery regarding specific key technologies that are dual purpose in nature. Armin touched on a lot of it, which is friendshoring, at least in the region. Vietnam and India were looked at. A lot of other people are looking to get it here in the United States. Because that's such an issue, you're going to have public-private partnerships to do it. And in doing that, you'll be leveraging AI and next-gen automation, which means jobs don't come back, which is also why in that strategy, you also have to include a policy for upskilling, which is meaning you're retraining your workers to have skill sets that qualify them for higher levels of employment in current and supplanted K waves. In other words, you turn factory workers into computer scientists and engineers. I mean, I'm going to give some other people a chance to talk to me. That's just off the top of my head, a lot of the points that were made. Sorry.
Okay, next is Noah.
I'm here. Yeah, I think we definitely do need to to decouple from China in terms of this, especially because COVID taught us, especially, we cannot get all of our things from like one place. We need to get it from multiple places or homegrown. So especially like, and I'm being quick on this, I really am. But like in terms of like rare earth minerals and all that, there was a video from Germany where they are actually recycling electronics, magnets and stuff, and remagnetizing them to make sure that they can, so they're less dependent on China. We need to do that here in the US so we don't have to get all of our rare earth magnets from China. That would help us reduce the dependency. And also recycling our batteries, lithium ion, anything we do to try and like shorten that so we can reduce the dependency. Also, if you can, final thing, buy your stuff from like India, Vietnam, anyone that's closer to the US. I would say more India, but yeah, I'll cut it there.
By the way, I've got a couple of super chats, but I'll respond to them after we go through the responses. Thank you guys for all the super chats.
Okay, next we have Jose.
I'll throw somebody else in front of me. Okay. Daniel, your point about China outsourcing their jobs. Well, as long as, like in Cuba, their generals, their red princelings, if you understand what I was talking about the other day about that, the people that are actually important in their culture have power. Z is one of them. Own those industries, fat chance. They're not going to give up control of them. Okay. What could cause China to outsource their industries if what the other issue I brought up that they're coming up within the next 5 to 10 years, and that's the Three Gorges Dam. If that blows, and some of the models I've seen show it going all the way from where that dam is all the way to the sea, okay, it'll take out 95% of their industrial base. It's all in that valley area, those multiple valleys headed out that way. That will force them going overseas. And then finally, about jobs coming back to the United States. When I started Coca-Cola, there were 3,000 people doing accounting and financing, posting checks. We were doing it for half the United States, Coca-Cola, half the United States. At our center, there was another center in California doing the same thing. There's now less than 500 people doing that role because we outsourced everything to India. We learned real quickly that India's way of working doesn't necessarily work with ours. The way AI is going, we're not, my 500 is not afraid of losing jobs or having to be trained, because the people that are going to be losing jobs are going to be people in India as they are consolidating, and brought down to fewer and fewer and fewer. And I've seen that in the like in automotive industry. Yeah, they brought factories back. Okay, fine, because you don't need the people anymore because you have robots. You still need people to monitor, to look at, but when the robotics come in, you need less people. And Spain also did something, and this is my last point. Spain is, I'll say it tomorrow because it's hysterically funny and I don't want to disrupt the flow. I'll say it tomorrow.
Okay, next to respond to this, we have Shauna.
Can everybody hear me? Okay, I'm on my phone.
Yeah, it's
Okay,
a bit
perfect.
choppy.
I just want to point out too okay, thank you. Yeah, I just want to point out too, when we talk about manufacturing stuff, we're having very high level conversations about rare earth and minerals, about chips and all these like robotics and all of these like AI, all of this high tech stuff. And we're talking about national security and all those things. Those are very important. I'm going to do the sketch job really quick and explain what Walmart Americans hear is. They want they want manufacturing to come back for Americans to make basic clothes and automobiles. That's what they think about. They think about stuff that they use. And so I don't know how to translate that to the public necessarily. It's something I'm thinking about a lot, but I do know that when they hear factory jobs, they think we should buy American, blah, blah, blah. However, that breaks down at about $10 as it's been tested by think tanks and stuff. Polls have been done. Americans don't want to pay more than $10. It started to go down as far as like clothing and basic supplies. So when we're having these conversations, we maybe need to be more clear with the public about what kind of manufacturing jobs we're bringing back, and also explain why getting clothes made in Vietnam is not bad and not hurting Americans, because what Americans do and what they say and what they hear, those are all nuanced. So that's my only point.
Okay, two things I need to say. First of all, my mod in Iran just came back on YouTube. Ali on YouTube is saying, after almost 76 days, finally I found a stable VPN. Oh my God, Ali, message me on Telegram if you can, and I hope you're safe. So one of my mods in Iran just came back, and not just my mod, one of my closest friends. So I hope he's okay. So he had no internet for 76 days, and this is the first place he comes once he gets internet. I will read the super chat soon once we go through the response list. And Ali, message me on Telegram. I just want to respond to something. Well, I'm not responding necessarily. I just got reminded of this, guys. When it comes to the work job, like when it comes to certain industries and work coming back to the America, that is a lot of Americans wanting that to come back to America is because they think that will bring jobs back to America. Most of those jobs are not coming back to America. Okay. Many of these are just going to AI and robotics, and there will be new jobs. There will be new jobs in America because of this industrial revolution. And the jobs that were lost because of offshoring, the vast majority of them are not coming back. They're gone, right? Even if you bring those industries back onshore, yeah, you're not bringing those jobs back. Okay. So let's move. Let's go to the next response. And guys, I see all of you
Okay.
super chats. Thank you so much. This is very generous. Thank you. All right.
The final response.
I'd like to speak on onshoring, friendshoring, and tariffing. Nation states have plans. See, these plans are sometimes to the public known every 4 to 8 years, but in in what they call the deep state or in the deep planning, these plans come very long term to fruition. We're seeing a lot of these jobs that got offshored are probably going to be friendshored to South America if we want to decouple. The amount of imports that we have from China has gone down by like 40% in the last couple of years, for around there. And we do have to recognize the power of the market, but we also have to recognize that there's bad actors that will try to leverage the market. So giving them tools that would allow them to become even more tyrannical is always a bad idea. I'd like to give an example. One of the things that we have as a resource is intelligence, right? Like I said, I'm not so afraid of China building GPUs that they're going to be able to do that because they don't have the technology to make the nanometers that we make, right? But if they get enough AI, they might develop the equipment. They don't have the brain power. They don't have, because the brain power is leaving. Like I said, like sand through their fingers, the intelligent people are leaving, but they might get machines smart enough to do what they want. So that's part of the what you call the AI race, is you don't want this power in the hands of people that would use it for evil, just because, like, even if you're an intelligent person, you would think twice about giving, no matter how much money they give you would think twice about giving a super weapon to an evil person, because you say, well, this person is unstable. I don't want to give them this resource of my brain. I'd rather just get out. And that happens a lot in China and places like China. But they are betting on copying, and they are betting on offsetting that through these kinds of tech. Like, another good thing about onshoring and friendshoring, like right now, Cuba has 500 metric tons, 500,000 metric tons of cobalt, 5.5 metric tons of million metric tons of nickel. It's very important. We have a lot of rare earth minerals in Venezuela, and that heavy, thick crude that we use for plastics and a lot of electronics. and a lot of for a lot of tech. Oil is also very necessary in tech. We have in Argentina, we have in there's a lot of places where we could start developing that rare earth resource, start friendshoring that. Even Japan started doing deep sea dredging to get decoupled from China and needing China for rare earth minerals. So sometimes we don't want to do this because the market punishes, because some nations don't care about the punishment. They'll throw that punishment down onto their people, like they do in Iran, like they do in Cuba. So that's why it's important to friendshore and onshore some of these technologies and some of these resources.
Okay. Are we should start moving towards the next, or do we have more responses? Because I do want to cover more topics today.
I have cut them as of about 15 minutes ago.
Okay.
Then
So
topic
before
we have.
no, before we go to next topic, we got a whole bunch of super chats that if it's okay, I will just quickly read them, right? Because we got a lot of support, so I'll do that fast, okay? I already read that one. Thank you so much, Dominic. And we have Ida. Oh, just Ida saying thank you, Armin, and thanks to all in the group. Great job. Thank you so much, guys. People are watching you on YouTube and they're saying great job to you guys. And then we have, oh, I know this person. Verses of Iran in English gave us a super chat. That's Sketch, guys. That's Sketch. Thank you for the super chat saying, I tried to give you a voice. I only wish I could do more. Okay, so I think he's saying I wish I could do more. So guys, go check out Voices of Iran in English. It's a YouTube channel where it basically uses AI to translate Prince Reza Pahlavi and Murad Vaisi in their own voice into English. So check that out. Check that channel out. And then we have another super chat again from Voices of Iran in English saying, give me your beloved Persians and I'll try to translate. Yeah, guys, go check that channel and give him feedback on whether the translations are right. And is it Ida or Ida? I don't know if I'm reading it right. I think it's okay. I know it's our Ida, is it? But it's saying Bepish and then US and Israel flags, love to the world, love to freedom. Thank you so much for that super chat. And then we have one more super chat saying, oh, we have actually a couple of guys. I'm going to read them fast. Not everyone can learn trades. I worked in the oil field, and you would be shocked how many people can learn to use a pipe wrench. Men who are good at welding simply can't learn to program computers. Yeah, that's true. That's true. But there's a lot of work that will be created that will be relevant, I'm assuming, and like I'm thinking. And there's also going to be with AI and robotics, like people that you're going to find new jobs that are going to be relevant to the jobs that people were doing before. Long term. Short term, there's going to be a lot of people who are going to be hurting, for sure. Yeah, short term, so many people are going to lose their job and they're not going to be able to find new jobs. Long term, I think we're going to have more job creation than job loss.